the detective who never expected the truth. When George Hodel died in 1999, his son Steve, a retired LAPD homicide detective, never believed his father had anything to do with the murders in Los Angeles. He didn't start this journey as a critic. He started as a son trying to protect his father's name, trying to separate him from rumors, gossip, and speculation. But once he began sorting through his father's belongings and reviewing records that had been buried for decades, Steve realized he wasn't clearing his father's name. He was walking straight into a story that was about to turn on him. The files LAPD buried for decades. Steve gained access to LAPD materials that were sealed for years: surveillance logs, witness notes, internal memos, and the full wiretap transcripts. Nothing in those files pointed away from his father. Everything pointed closer. The things investigators heard inside the Sowden house weren't normal conversations. They were the kind of comments detectives don't forget. And the more Steve read, the more he realized the original investigators had quietly suspected his father was involved, long before Steve ever opened a single box. It wasn't rumor anymore. It was documented history. But the moment that shook Steve the most came from something personal: a box of photographs left among his father's things. Inside were two pictures of a young woman with the same facial features, same hair, same bone structure that Elizabeth Short was known for. People argued about the photos for years. Some said it was her. Some said it wasn't. Steve wanted a real answer, so he sent the images to a forensic facial recognition lab. Their finding? Approximately a 95 to 97% probability match to Elizabeth Short. Not a confirmed ID, because a full positive match requires nearly 99.7%, but high enough to make Steve stop cold. If it wasn't Elizabeth, it was someone who looked uncannily like her. And if it was her, why did George Hodel have those photos? Combined with the timing, the surgical similarities, the locations, and the behavior patterns he was uncovering, the coincidences were becoming too specific to ignore. Steve didn't keep his findings to himself. He took them back to former LAPD investigators, the ones who worked the Dahlia case or inherited it later. Some dismissed him, but others didn't. Some openly said,
"If your father were alive today, I would file charges."
Others admitted the case had been handled poorly, evidence lost, leads shut down, and entire sections of the investigation sealed away. Not because of lack of evidence, but because of who the case pointed toward. Steve wasn't forcing anything. He was filling in work that had been left unfinished, or intentionally buried. And suddenly, the Black Dahlia case wasn't just an unsolved murder anymore. It was looking like a cover-up. After years of digging, thousands of pages of research, and countless interviews, Steve reached a conclusion he never expected to reach in his entire life. His father, the man he once admired, the man he tried to defend, might be the killer behind the Black Dahlia and possibly other victims. Whether Steve is right or not, his investigation forced the world to look at this case through a different lens. Because the deeper you go, the harder it becomes to chalk everything up to coincidence. And in part 7, we dig into the things that were left behind: the suspicious death of Dorothy Harvey, the anomalies beneath the Sowden house, the DA memo naming Hodel as the prime suspect, and the psychological profile that investigators should have looked at decades earlier. This is Casey. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in part 7.